With Coach Joel Johnson. Coach, we're going to start with him some opening remarks.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend. I thought we played pretty well and came up short on the win-loss column, but that we've talked about it last year and this year. Sometimes that's going to happen on a weekend. I was really impressed with our goaltending both nights, and I was also really excited to see us respond in game 2 on the road at St. Cloud. It's tough going up and playing on a wide ice surface when you don't ever practice on it. And I really thought the compete level and actually some of our execution was maybe even better on Saturday than it was here on Friday. So 2 close games. Our league is incredibly tough every weekend. And so I was really pleased and look forward to a big matchup coming up here against Ohio State this coming weekend.
Open up to questions.
Joel, I was at OSU Ice Rink on Saturday. It seems to begin and end with Sophie Jakes with their team. How do you defend a player like that seems to, cover all the ice?
Yeah, Sophie's a special player, and I've been fortunate in my coaching career to see, players in the WCHA and also coach some of them, coach against others that kind of have a 200-foot impact. And when you play someone like that, you don't really, you don't try to stop them, because if you do, you get mesmerized, and then somebody else is open. She'll find open players. What you do is you try to stay, committed to your systems. With her, like any good player, angling and trying to anticipate where she's going is critical. As far as stopping her, I don't think we necessarily worry about that. I think it's just more trying to make sure that the chances she gets are predictable for the way we're playing defense, and gives our goaltender a chance to make a play, and also then put pressure on her. No player likes pressure. So whether that's putting the puck behind her and forcing her to go back and putting good breakout pressure, forecheck pressure on their breakout, things like that can slow that player down. Finishing checks, if you will, is, as it's allowed in women's hockey, is important to try to take away her ability to jump into the play. So little details like that we'll talk about through the week, but certainly she's an impressive key player.
For your team, it seems like it's still about finding some sources of offense. How is that project coming? I guess
It's going to be a big focus in practice. Not just this week, but as we go forward. When we play as well as we did on Saturday and can't generate a goal, I look back to myself and our staff and say, what are we doing? What do we need? What can we do better? Certainly our players are, doing things as well. And we're asking them to try to find ways to create offense, not just create shots. And sometimes that means, changing the shot angle, hesitating a little bit, finding a little space to put the puck towards the net. It was a big focus in Saturday's game. After I think we had less than 5 shots in the first 2 periods of Friday night's game. And so Saturday we generated more shots on net. They weren't necessarily great goal scoring shots, but they were shots that created some offense. And so I think that's going to be a really big key for us going forward, not just this weekend, but for the rest of the year, because you have to score to win. So
all throughout October, it's easy to say it's early. We're flipping the calendar to November now. Is there maybe more of a sense of urgency or kind of a different attitude that we're getting into the heart of things now?
Yeah, I think there is. I think when we look at our team right now, we're starting to find some identities and some individual players that are kind of fitting into roles. So that's an important part. And I think I'm hoping that you'll see that through the month of November. I think the challenging part, to be quite honest with you, Jess, is when we play in a conference where the top 4 teams in our conference are the same as the top 4 teams in the country. It's incredibly tough every weekend. And so, when we're a team that's still in year 2 of going from D3 to D1, and we're playing against what I consider the deepest the WCHA has ever been in the history of the league. And then you look at the history of the league, and it's a pretty darn good league. There's no weekend that we feel like, hey, we should win this game. It's always going to be wow, we've got to play perfectly for where our program's at to win this game. And I shared that with our team, after Saturday's loss in St. Cloud. I said, we've got to realize that we're still building and yet never settle. And that's the thing that I'm proud of with our team. Is last year we would have settled for the weekend being, hey, that was a good weekend. We lost 2 games, but we're making progress, because it was that first year of transition from D3 to D1. And now our players aren't satisfied with that, which is great. But there's still a reality that it's really difficult to win hockey games in the WCHA.
You obviously have known Nadine for a long time, as a player and as a coach. I would say 5 years ago, maybe she was in your position where, you go into most weekends to Ohio State 5 years ago.
Yes.
You're not expecting to win. Obviously, a nice new banner hanging in their rink now. And, with what she's done, is there almost kind of a sense of pride, having been part of her kind of coming up through the system?
Yeah, it's funny, when she was a player I first coached her when she was at Minnesota and playing. And the thing that's been impressive about Nadine is she's two things. She's completely confident in what she's doing. She has a plan. She instills that confidence in her team, and she's also incredibly loyal. She's one of the most loyal people I know. I consider her a great friend. She's also willing to run me right over if it serves her best interest, and that's Nadine. And I just think she does a great job. And when I look at where our program's at, and you mentioned the comparison, she doesn't complain about lack of facilities or doesn't complain about this or that. She just instills confidence and recruits well and gets her team to play a relentless pressure game. That is what we hope to do over the coming years. And of course, we're not quite there yet. But when you look at the Minnesotas and Wisconsins, and in my time, Duluth's of the world, Ohio State is now firmly present in that conversation where 5 years ago they weren't. And so I look for the future of our program and say that's the model we're going to try to follow.
Questions? Anything else, Coach?
Nope.
Right. Yeah.